But let me start by saying a few things, three main things that happened this week that have been very positive for the risk environment. It started with some Dow Jones news earlier in the week. Basically said that the Treasury Secretary has extended an olive branch to the Chinese government for more trade talks. So that got risk moving a little bit.
Yeah.
The second big thing that happened was finally the Turkish central bank became independent and went above and beyond and raised rates 600 basis points. So that helped the overall emerging markets, all emerging markets, not only Turkey. And the third thing that happened this week was our CPI came in and it was lower than expected. So a lot of things that the biggest driver of the dollar has been our steady climb in interest rates here, and that's hurt emerging markets. So the combination of the three things that I've mentioned have been great for the risk appetite and for all the risk-on trades. And we've talked about this, and I'll repeat it again. Risk-on trades are stocks higher, bonds lower, EM higher, meaning dollar EM lower, dollar China lower, Aussie and Kiwi against the dollar higher. That's true, and Euro Yen especially, and Euro Swiss higher. Those are the typical risk-on trades, which we've seen this week, and risk-off, obviously, if things turn, just do the opposite of those trades.
Well, I think it's interesting what you just pointed out because it's true. I think, we started off the week pretty risk off. Equities were down Monday, Tuesday, and then I think it was the first point that you mentioned there, the news headline that came out from the Wall Street Journal that the U.S. and China are, with Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, are going to come back to the table, and S&P rallied off that, and here we are. It's Friday. We're at the high of the week in the S&P. We're at 29.10, and then you were mentioning some risk on pairs of FX. You take a look at Euro Yen right now. It's at 130.75. Dollar EM is a bit lower. And so it definitely seems like that's a theme. And then, U.S. yields, which I want to get to, the 10-year is just below 3% right now. And we have a lot of key data coming up today. So that'll be interesting to see. So what are your thoughts on U.S. yields and the dollar? If we get good data today, yields tick up, is that going to be something that the dollar strengthens on?
I would think so. What you've seen the dollar weaken, and yesterday you had the ECB, and he really didn't say anything dovish, and we breached some technical levels in the euro, 116.50, 60, so it extended the move overnight. But the majors, the dollar against the majors, the euro dollar especially, has been trading off of EM. So when dollar EM is a lot higher and EM currencies are getting hit, there's a flight to quality in the dollar, and the euro usually has gotten hit on that. And that's what you're seeing. A lot of people say the euro should be lower because of interest rate differentials, and they've been on the widest. But that correlation in the last year and a half has been abysmal. It just has not worked. And traditionally, currencies are driven by interest rate differentials. But I still think for the last 2 months that we've spoken on the podcast and on your website, it's been all about cracks in emerging markets. So we've had a bounce in a lot of these emerging markets this week, and hence the euro is higher in some of these risk trades, and S&Ps, as you mentioned, are a lot higher. We were due for a bounce in Chinese markets, and you have gotten those. Now we're really waiting for a response from China, and we are waiting for some kind of agreement with Canada on the negotiations. But it really seems that they are taking their sweet time. So as far as what I'm waiting for a response from China, and I'm waiting for some development in the Canada situation with the negotiations with Lighthizer.
Yeah. Now I brought up the chart of dollar ruble. On Monday we traded up to 70.50, and since Monday we've had four straight down days. And tell us what happened overnight as well.
Overnight, they raised rates. I think the locals uh, expected it, but you still had a nice over 1% move down in dollar ruble. It seems like we've all expected a lot of these central banks to be really on the ball and raise rates when their currencies have a crisis. And as you could see in Turkey, they did not want to raise rates, and they had a big crisis. And there were issues whether Erdogan wanted the central bank to be independent or not. So Russia really took the bull by the horns, and I thought it was a great move. They were preemptive here with worries about inflation, and they actually raised rates. That came out about an hour and a half ago. So you saw dollar ruble move down about 100 points. Yeah. But it really that move in dollar ruble really didn't affect dollar Turkey and dollar ZAR that much. So I think we're waiting for retail sales. It's been a tape bomb kind of week. I'm going to trade it. If it's a strong number, I'm going to buy some dollars, and if it's a weak number, I'm going to sort of sit back and job this thing around a little bit.
Yeah, and then. So it's interesting. So dollar ruble, it looks like it's been about a 5% decline from Monday when, basically we were talking about when EM really started to pick up. And so that's a pretty sizable trade there.
I'm sorry. Mike, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention, yesterday you had a big spike higher because the U.S. government warned about putting severe sanctions on Russia into November. For their meddling, and then you had two of their alleged spies get on Russian TV yesterday and say they were in that British town to see a cathedral. So it was kind of a real laughingstock press conference, and that's when you saw some of the tape bombs regarding possible sanctions, and you saw that move higher.
Yeah. Last thing I want to get you out with UK. A lot of headlines all week on Brexit. Some more headlines over the weekend, but here we sit at about 131, which is well off the low. It's dollar. The pound's trading pretty supportive. What are your thoughts there?
Well, as you know, I've been a buyer of dips in the pound. I do think they're going to come together. If they can come together, and the EU always seems to come together last minute. You saw this with every crisis, with the Greek situation 3, 4, 5 years ago. The comments have been positive from Barnier and Rab, and most of the tape bombs have been positive. Something just came out this morning, probably right before I got on this call, that there was an FT article that Labor won't back May's Brexit deal. So there's just a lot of infighting amongst the political parties on what they want to support, what kind of Brexit they want to support. But what you really have to remember is it's all this. These tape bombs will be positive. I do think they're going to get a deal. It's just one of these too big to fail kind of scenarios.
Right.
However, EU has to be very careful that they don't make it too easy and too sweet of a deal that other members say, hey, that's not that bad. We can withstand a year or two of pain to get a better deal for ourselves as well.
Yeah, well, first off, like you mentioned, there was that headline that came out that UK is set to vote against the Brexit deal, based on some May comments. But there's so many headlines, like you said, and the pound dropped about 20 pips or so. But in general, like you've been pointing out, it has been a supportive range. We got below about 127, and then for the past 2 or 3 weeks, we've been grinding up right now around the 131 handle. So we'll keep a close eye on that. And like you said, it's a tape bomb market, whether it be from NAFTA, Canada, China, Brexit, the storm, Trump tweets. We'll keep a close eye on that sort of stuff. But it's been active. EM, dollar Turkey, things like that. There's been a lot of stories.
I mean, if you guys have any questions throughout the day or anything comes out, uh, just ask it on the website. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. If I'm not in the middle of a trade at that moment, just give me a little time, but I'll fill you in on anything.
Sounds good. All right,
Oh,
everybody. That was Greg Schwake. Thanks for the help, Greg. We'll talk in the chat.
have a great weekend.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Also, just an update in about 5 minutes. Larry and Vince will be coming on for the AM roadmap as well. We'll come back to you in a few.